He can run, but he cannot hide forever. Across Parliament, his supposed allies are deserting, and the SNP, I now read, are in favour of an election. The Lib Dems are in favour of an election. What an incredible state of affairs, Mr. Speaker. That there is one party tonight that is actually against a general election. There is one party that does not trust the people of this country, Mr. Speaker. Point of order, Mr. Speaker. The leader of the opposition, literally and figuratively, has run away from the judgment of the people for the third time, Mr. Speaker. He's turned down our offer to get Brexit done, in spite of the fact that he and every member of his party stood on a promise to deliver Brexit in this Parliament. And I think, frankly, that the electorate will find his behaviour utterly bewildering. But as I said when moving the motion, we will not allow this paralysis to continue. And one way or another, we must proceed straight to an election. So later on this evening, the government will give notice of presentation for a short bill for an election on the 12th of December so that we can finally get Brexit done. And there is no support in the House, that we've heard earlier on from the benches opposite, for the WAB to proceed. But, Mr. Speaker, this House cannot any longer keep this country hostage. Millions of families and businesses cannot plan for the future. And I don't believe that this paralysis and this stagnation should be allowed to continue. Now that no deal is off the table, we have a great new deal. And it's time for the voters to have a chance to pronounce on that deal and to replace this dysfunctional Parliament with a new Parliament that can get Brexit done so the country can move on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I apologise to you and to the Prime Minister for not being here at the point when he raised his point of order. I was detained outside the chamber. I'm now back here. I understand a bill will be tabled tomorrow. We will obviously look and scrutinise that bill, and we look forward to a clear, definitive decision that no deal is absolutely off the table.
This was yesterday. The SNP, the Lib Dems, had abandoned Corbyn on this very point of an election. I kept calling this notion of getting rid of no deal a fig leaf. I called it a fig leaf because I thought it was a fig leaf. That ultimately they did not want an election. They wanted to keep the Prime Minister tied in knots. Here's the catch. Labour, working with these other parties in order to tie the Prime Minister in knots, is entirely dependent upon the advantages for the various parties. Meaning, as long as their goals are met and we're in alignment with one another, then special interests or self-interests allowed for the unity of these groups in order to tie the Prime Minister in knots. The minute that goes away, because they are separate parties and they are in competition with one another, that dissolves. You know what makes it go away? An election. Especially if the SNP and Lib Dems believe that they can eat into Labour's numbers in order to advance themselves, which is, based on their polling, exactly what they believe. For the exact same reason, Labour did not want an election and was using whatever they could in order to essentially to time up in knots. In this case of, we want to make Brexit off the table. Here's the catch. You were too clever. Now, I would argue Boris Johnson was too clever in the beginning, and you have things that take certain turns. These guys were playing chess to some degree, move and counter move. In Boris's case, pretending that he didn't want an election when he definitely wanted an election. A prime minister doesn't get delist like 20 members of his own team because if he wasn't looking for an election. Meaning he didn't care that he was getting rid of those people, even people, it was a ballsy move, but he didn't care because his point was, I need an election, we have a crippled parliament, and I needed to force this general election so I can get my numbers to pursue Brexit. It's impossible to pursue Brexit with the parliament that I currently have. Labour's point was, we're not going to give you that election because we don't want you to get those numbers. You said you're going to leave on October the 31st. Show us how you're going to do that with this crippled parliament. they won. Bojo wasn't able to get out on October the 31st. Problem, you got your extension. Now, he's been screaming for an election. You voted him down 2 times before. Last night, once again, you voted him down 3 times, but you got what you wanted. You got your extension. Bojo lost on that October the 31st thing. What's your excuse for not giving him an election? All of the other parties abandoned Jeremy Corbyn, leaving Labour to be the only party not wanting an election, not wanting to be looked upon, giving the public a choice, its will within the fires of public discussion and debate. Why don't you, in a democratic country, not want the public to get a choice? That looks bad. I'm sorry, that looks bad. Now, maybe it looks outsized to me because I look at media. I'm a big fan of Corbyn, and I don't necessarily like seeing Corbyn looking like this, like he's terrified of going into the election. And that terror is not his imagination. This was yesterday or 2 days ago. 16 points. 16-point lead. And not just a 16-point lead. The Brexit Party has numbers, significant numbers in the election itself. And Lib Dems. Corbyn, at one point, had a Brexit strategy. And he's allowed himself to be cowed by people who hate his guts. They are the de facto Remain party. Here's the problem. The SNP doesn't want to go. Every time he gets up, he screams about not wanting to go. Lib Dems, fuck the referendum. We want to remain. We don't care. We will revoke Article 50. Tories, here's our Brexit plan. We want Brexit. Hell or high water, dead in the ditch, we're going to get you Brexit. Meaning, that's the public, that's the guy who gives Brexit. That's the guy who leaves. Brexit Party, not Farage. We want to leave in a hard Brexit. Meaning, you can get Bojo's Brexit, which is a hard Brexit, or you can get a, rip off the bandage from genitals Brexit that we want to give you. Where does Labour fit in when both sides of this particular equation has already been filled, meaning all of these other lanes have been taken in earnest fashion where people believe in hardcore terms this is exactly what these groups are going to deliver. 0 and 1, right? What does Labour fit between the 0 and the 1? Fence sitting. And fence sitting in a way that doesn't make sense. We are going to go and negotiate a deal. A third prime minister is going to go to Brussels, negotiate a deal. We're going to bring that deal back. And the front bench is going to vote it down, meaning they're going to lobby against their own deal. And what is going to be on that referendum? They're de facto Remain. They can't say they Remain. And I got to be honest, people like a man who knows what he is. And the sad part is, you will never know it. Jeremy Corbyn is a Brexiteer. He's a fucking Brexiteer. It's not so much that this is without risk. Meaning just because Boris Johnson is sitting high on the hog at this very moment doesn't necessarily mean that that will translate into him winning this election. All sorts of things can happen. If you remember in the last election, Theresa May had that election for the exact same reason of breaking Labour. She failed miserably and ended up with that crippled parliament. So again, it's not that it's a foregone conclusion. Labour completely loses this. This is probability, right? There's a probability that Bojo loses. But between going into something that seems like you were dragged, kicking and screaming, bellowing, out to the woodshed, as opposed to standing strong on that front, which one would you rather go? And seeing Labour's reaction of not wanting to go to that election, I suppose that they know, or at the very least they believe. Doesn't mean they'll lose. It just looks bad.
We are ready for an election. We're going to go out there with a very strong message of how we transform our society to end inequality and injustice and deal with the devastating poverty that so many people face. We always said we wanted an election. We do want an election, but we wanted no deal to be taken off the table. We've now had confirmation from all 28 EU member states that no deal is off the table. So we're going to go out there with the biggest campaign this party has ever mounted, totally united, totally determined, and I'm absolutely looking forward to going every part of this country with my wonderful shadow cabinet team here and all the fantastic Labour activists to give a message of hope where there isn't one with this government.
They hate you. They hate you. Many of those people back there have nods. They hate your guts. They hate your guts. God, I wish you had understood that in flesh to bone. And I kind of wish you understood it in a way that a right-winger... There's some people that are almost too moral to be in politics. And I mean this in the sense that, you know, people pursue the world in different ways. And you have to kind of engage the world in a way that people pursue the world, meaning you have to understand the limits of your adversary. And you even have to know who that is. And there are people who have put him in this weird, awkward position now going into an election. If Corbyn loses this election, Corbyn will be no more. They're not going to keep him on losing 2 elections. I could be wrong. I could be entirely wrong. But I am not the only one with this disposition. And I had this disposition before this gentleman, who is often right, has ever had this disposition. Meaning, the video I did yesterday says everything that I'm saying right now. And, well, not everything, but you get my point. The basic idea, or the prognostication. Galloway put this out today. First, Jeremy Corbyn, you betrayed me. And by the way, he is a close friend to Corbyn. He is a close friend to Corbyn. I would imagine it was painful for him to make this tweet. First, Jeremy Corbyn, you betrayed me, then Ken, then Mark, then Jackie, and Derby Chris, and thousands of others. You prefer the company of those dearest wish whose every waking hour was dedicated to destroying you. You have made your bed, and now you must lie. Vaz Hodge. I suspect that what he is talking about is being dragged to an election with a position on Brexit that doesn't make sense. And an election that is going to be entirely a referendum on Brexit. People are hollering for a referendum. This is the referendum. That's the referendum. That's why I say Labour's position doesn't make sense. The election is a determination of, do you want Bojo's Brexit? Do you want Lib Dem stay? Or do you want something else? Meaning what the parties are putting up, what they're representing is going to be about Brexit. That's what's going to be what the public is caring about. This argument that he's making about, hope and all this other stuff, that sounds nice, but the election will be on Brexit. And he will be crippled because of such. Port Film Co-op. Traditional labor voters, working class, want to leave. If I am not mistaken, the majority of labor seats was leave. And even if the majority wasn't, say at large numbers, how can they support labor in an election that will be defined literally by Brexit, with a Brexit position where they can't tell you whether they're for it or against it? And people suspect that at this point they're against it. Meaning you're a Remain party that can't tell me you're a Remain party. How do you vote for that? It comes across as disingenuous. And so now, being dragged by the throat, kicking and screaming, bellowing, hollering to the woodshed, being forced and cowed after every other party abandoned him, being the last guy not wanting an election. This is weak. I'm sorry. It looks weak. It looks extremely weak. God, I hope I'm wrong. Maybe it's dark in Scotland or something, and people, don't come out. I don't know. But, and there's always a probability distribution that, this is just a poll, even though most of the polls have essentially shown the same thing. They were all consistent. maybe I'm wrong. God knows I hope I'm wrong. And Galloway is not infallible. So there's that too. We're just men. Great looking men. Certain style of our own. But men nonetheless. And we can be wrong. But you tell me, and be honest, 3 a.m. between you and your God. And I am a Jeremy Corbyn supporter through and through. And a Labour supporter. Not New Labour, a Labour supporter. And I'm saying it from the standpoint of a socialist party. Through and through. I hate making this video. I hope you understand this. I was the guy that essentially was going back and forth with the managers at a company on this notion of Labour, saying that Corbyn will be prime minister at some point. He will win the prime ministership, given the variables that were currently at the time, meaning Cameron and then eventually May. This looks bad. This is a dark day. A blue-collar billionaire is screaming about freedom and democracy because Labour abandoned the referendum, which was a direct show of democracy. Bojo does not give two shits about democracy. He is a conservative, a Tory, and what he wants is to cut regulations to the bone. And he wants to sell off pieces of the NHS and all those others. He's a right-winger. That's what he wants to do. Now, by the same token, it's weird to say that the UK can't make its own laws. And that's an odd argument to me. And I understand Labour is making that argument from the standpoint of wanting to use the EU in order to restrain Bojo from, cutting regulations to the bone. But the UK, as a country, as a sovereign nation, at some point, has to have some capacity of being able to stand on its own. I mean, they were masters of the universe. At one point, you had 51% of the globe. I'm pretty sure you can handle your affairs. Labour is terrified of an election that comes across in waves. And regardless of what they're saying here, just this is a dark day. I think Corbyn loses. And I think he loses absolutely. I hope I'm wrong. God knows I hope I'm wrong. This is a... I hope I'm wrong. I'll say it that way. Galloway is not reliable. Okay, fair enough. Gardner, I also said to watch out for Corbyn flipping. You laughed it off. All right, fair enough, dog. Fair enough. Fair enough. I am a man and I'm fallible. I am a man and I'm fallible. I accept it. This burns. I truly hope you're wrong. I truly hope I'm wrong too, Trudy. I hope I'm wrong too, Trudy. This is not a video I want to make, but God knows I don't. They hate him. They hate him. Like, it burns me like it burns with Sanders. It's like, why are you appeasing people that hate your guts? And you have this lane of running against people that hate you, and you don't take it for various reasons. Fair enough. Maybe expanding the electorate might have been a better thing as opposed to trying to use the electorate you have. Whatever, fair enough. But I feel the same way with Corbyn. You've been cowed. And you've been cowed into a position that I don't know how it wins. The public is sick of this. They want to leave. And it's kind of like with Trump. There are people who don't like Trump, who still get sick of the media screaming about him. They're sick of this. They're sick of this. Yeah. Vast majority of Labour MPs were against Brexit at the time. Yeah, they were against it. They were against it. Break your emotional attachment to these politicos. No, it's not an emotional attachment. Jeremy Corbyn is a Brexiteer. Like, it has nothing to do with attachment. It has everything to do with the guy's a Brexiteer. And you have a position on Brexit. Okay, soft Brexit. You're the leader of the party. Lead. Cow the people, or at the very least, get rid of the people who are not backing your agenda. Fuck the ones that aren't. They hate you. So screw them. You got to do it on your own. and make your alliances in the way you need to make your alliances. I hoped, or at the very least I thought, that Corbyn, who is a Brexiteer, would continue to do so. That's not emotional attachment. It's just looking at a fucking guy's record. I mean, he was a Brexiteer for like 40 years. So, yeah, I would say break your thought that you understand what's going on, is which, again, I've made that point to you before. You have this notion that your idea of the world is solid. It's not. It's your perceptions. My attachment to Corbyn, I like him, but he's a horse. He's a horse that I ride for political reasons. And if there's something in the guy's history where he's been a particular way for 40 years, I can look at that and use that as a way of gauging what he's going to do in the future. In fact, you have nothing else to gauge by. So, yeah, try again. Yes, I cheerlead Corbyn because I like Corbyn. But that's different than my reasons for thinking he will support Brexit. My reasons for thinking he will support Brexit is because he is a Brexiteer. You're wrong. You're wrong. You don't understand stuff. And then when you don't understand it, you fill shit in. As opposed to just asking, why did you support Corbyn? Why did you think Corbyn was it? I would tell you if you ask, but you make assumptions. Your assumptions are wrong. Is he an, yeah, he's been an yeah. That's data, that's analysis, that's looking at what is and making a determination on what will be. I'm making the point that you're wrong. I don't quite get why you can't own that. You're making a decision on what you think I am making a choice on and how I am making my determinations. And your conclusion was wrong. You believe that just because I like Corbyn, that I can't necessarily make a determination on why I believe Corbyn would do X or Y. My liking Corbyn has nothing to do with whether or not I think Corbyn would have continued with this notion of Brexit, even if it was a soft Brexit. My reasoning had everything to do with Corbyn being a Tony Benn Labour member, meaning Labour wasn't always a pro-Remain party. Labour used to be a Brexiteer party. And so when I look at Corbyn and I look and say, well, this guy was a Brexiteer beforehand, maybe he is one now. Now, it's a secondary thing if I'm not considering the fact that he has a bunch of people who hate his guts and who are Remainers and who will be eating at him at every angle to the point where he edges off that position. Well, just somewhat I didn't consider. Not because I like Corbyn. You're wrong. It's a flat, fat absolute. Paul BSO Gaming, you people on the right are nutcases bent on watching the earth burn. I'm not on the right. Bojo has a Brexit tattoo on the side of his face. Look, it's... Do you honestly believe that everything politicians say is the reason they're doing it? Think about what I'm asking you. Think about U.S. politics. When a politician comes out like Bush, 9/11. Bush comes out and says, well, we got to fight terror. We got to fight terror. And then it becomes Saddam has weapons of mass destruction. Now, this stuff was cherry-picked and all this other stuff, and there was no real analysis into whether or not he had those things. At a certain thing, it became a geopolitical reasoning used on this notion of fighting terror. Do you honestly believe that we're in Syria because we're fighting terror? No, we're over there to knock down Assad. Politicians use all sorts of reasons to try to get what they want. Tories wanted to get out of the EU regulations. They want to be able to cut regulations to the bone. That's what they want. That's their political objective. They get the opportunity to put through a referendum after the public are sick of austerity, and the public is associating that with the way the UK is working with Europe. Not to mention they're pissed off, kind of like in the United States or many places around the world. This kind of neoliberal policies that have beaten down the public and stripped away wealth. They're sick of it. So it came up for a vote, and the public says, we're sick of this, we want to leave. Great. What does leave mean? Tories say, we want to leave. Even if that means hard Brexit, we want to leave. However, even within the Tories, you have many of those people who didn't want to leave, But at the very least, we're stuck with this notion that we gave the public a referendum, so we're going to be the ones to implement it. It will absolutely destroy our party if we put up a referendum and ignored it. You had other Tories who say, yes, here's our time. Here's the catch. Regardless of those people saying yes, the public voted. I don't understand how that's not a sticking point. The public said they wanted to leave. Whatever you think of that, I get that you think for whatever particular reason you know better than the public. Noted. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It is a big fucking deal that Labour is blowing off what the public wanted. I'm sorry, that is disturbing to me. It's not that I am a Bobo Cho supporter. It's more so that I look at this and say the public chose. And Labour absolutely abandoned the position. Despite the fact that the guy who's running Labour is a Brexiteer at heart. It's just it's just fucking weird. It's just really fucking weird. All right. I'm going to end it. I hope I'm wrong. Once before, and to be fair, as a feather in Labour's cap, they thought that they were going to destroy Labour once before, under Theresa May. But Bojo is not Theresa May. Theresa May has the charisma of a wet sponge. Bojo, as I said months ago, is a threat. When Bojo was running against Jeremy Hunt, I made the point that it's difficult to do a video where you have to say something and admit something that is not within your political interest. Between Jeremy Hunt and Bojo, I would prefer Jeremy Hunt to win. Not because it would have been best for the UK, but because ultimately he has no charisma. Corbyn can win that election. By the same token, I thought between the two, the one that could deliver Brexit is Bojo. Bojo is dangerous as a politician because he is a good politician and he has charisma for spades. That is a dangerous weapon when you're going into an election. And the fact that he's been screaming for an election for like 3 months or several months gets across that he full well believes that he can win and he needs the legitimacy of the public to make it work. This is a dark day. This is a dark, dark day. The average voter is not informed about it. At what point? I mean, honestly, do you honestly believe that the voters in the United States are informed voters when they go and vote for somebody? When these people are out there screaming how awesome Joe Biden is, do you honestly believe that they know anything about Joe Biden? That's part and parcel to politics, at least that I know of, at least in the United States. So maybe that doesn't fly as an argument to me. Also, it's easy to say that, and it's somewhat even slightly arrogant to say, even if it's true. One side loses, and it turns around and says the other side didn't know what it was voting for. That's great. Like, share, subscribe. Dark day.